Howdy, it's Jim Murado, and this is early October 2024. We're in Skagway, Alaska, and actually, right now we're in the little train station for the White Pass and Yukon route rail line, I guess you would say. They have coffee, they have a gift shop, they have a little museum. Looks like you can buy tickets to ride the train also. By the way, their coffee is really good. Anyway, we did this as a cruise excursion while we were on our Norwegian cruise, and we had a great time. The entire excursion involved a bus coming to pick us up at our boat or our cruise ship and taking us to the train. We would ride the train up into Canada, and then our bus would come back and pick us up off the train, give us a bus ride back to Skagway, and we would pan for gold right kind of as we got back to Skagway. So that was our entire excursion. It was a lot of fun. I was hoping on this cruise, on our previous cruise, to get into the province of Yukon, kind of a hard to get to Canadian area there. We almost got there. This train takes you almost up all the way up into that area, but not quite. So I have not been to the province of Yukon in Canada. But we still rode the train. We had a great time. And by the way, the audio, I'm using a new camera. Audio's not perfect here. Forgive me. I hope you might want to watch this without the audio. I think you can still hear what's going on. But this is going to be kind of a highlight video of our train ride, getting there, a little bit of panning for gold, and then getting back to the ship. So I hope you enjoy it.
Is the fact that it is, in fact, my last day touring here in Skagway this season. So you guys have to keep up the energy because I will not let this go off without a bang. So please, let's keep the energy up today. It's going to be a great day. I know it's pretty drizzly outside, but welcome to Alaska, Chichacos, okay? Now, I'm going to go through a quick safety.
All right, and I'm not going to say much. I'm going to let her do some talking. She was great. She was really funny too. Using a new camera, my audio's not that great. Feel free to turn it down. Feel free not to listen. I did the best I could. It's a no budget video, but check it out and let me know what you think. I really enjoyed this.
All right, let's take a look over to our left-hand side. We're going to see the Lynn Canal meeting the Skagway River. Now, the difference between low tide and high tide in this area is 24 feet. Now, notice the color of that water. It's much different color of water than you typically see, and that's because it's run off from glaciers fed by the Skagway River. Now, those glaciers are the Carmack and the Lot glaciers, and they feed the Skagway River with tons of glacial silt. That being said, there are no fish that are going to run in that river because they can't breathe with all that glacial silt in it. It's like swimming in sand to them. Take a look up to your right, and you'll see a painted pocket watch on the rock face. That's original advertisements from the late 1800s for Kearnsey Cheerios. Kearnsey was a watchmaker and repairman, and he started out of a tent in his business of clothing. He bought a shop that still stands here today. During the Gold Rush era, when this was a boom town, they had a wood shortage, and they couldn't use wood to make billboards. They painted their advertisements on the rock face instead. Now, to start off our downtown tour very strong, if we take a look over to our right, we're going to see a bathroom. That bathroom is pretty special because it's one of the only places in town where you can get free Wi-Fi, so you can upload while you download. The red and black locomotive that was on your right-hand side is the rotary snowplow number 1. That is the original rotary snowplow number 1. 129 tons of pure force used to push the snow out of the way in front of that steam engine that was on its left. It can still be serviceable today. It just has a fancy paint job now. Now the Red Onion Saloon is coming up on the left-hand side. The bottom was and still is a bar today, and the top used to be a brothel. take you upstairs for a quickie tour. Get your head out of the gutter. On your right, you will see a jewelry store. On your left, another jewelry store. Lots of jewelry stores here in Skagway, but only one grocery store. The shipment comes in every Tuesday, and everything's gone by Wednesday. A gallon of milk is $8, 12 eggs $12. I wish I was kidding. The Skagway hardware store is on your right-hand side. Their motto is, if we don't have it, you don't need it. Apparently, there's a lot of things we don't need here in Skagway, like underwear. Currency's Curios is this white building with the green trim coming up on the right-hand side. That's the original building and the original business. All of the businesses that run out of these buildings have to keep up with national park regulations because this area is owned by the national park. Anywhere where you see the wooden boardwalk in front of buildings is going to be owned by the national park. We are now entering Skagway's financial district. We are now exiting Skagway's financial district. That bank at one point did have an attempt at robbery. O'Keefe came in with a gun and 2 sticks of dynamite threatening to blow up the place if he didn't get gold. I don't know if you guys have ever robbed a bank before, but what you would do is you come in and put a warning shot in the air to signify, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I want that gold. And that's exactly what O'Keefe did. He came in, put a warning shot in the air, which then ignited the 2 sticks of dynamite in his hand. Safe to say there's nothing left of Old Pete, but they had to clean up the wreckage that Old Pete left behind, and what they discovered was thousands of dollars worth of gold dust underneath the floorboard. It's the only time in big history where the bank made money from a robbery. This building that's directly in front of us is Alaska's first higher education institute. It didn't last very long, so it only lasted about 3 semesters, and then it became a prison. When I say prison, I am being a little bit facetious because on your right you can still see the bars on those windows from where 2 jail cells were. And that's because this was City Hall. And it does stand as City Hall still on top, but now there is a historic Skagway Museum on bottom. Now we are approaching the train at this time. A couple bits of information before I let you disembark my bus. There is a bathroom on your train car. There is a bathroom on your train car. Use the bathroom on your train car because when you get to Fraser, Canada, there will not be an available bathroom for you to use unless it is on my bus. So please make sure that you are using that bathroom on your train car. They only let you use that bathroom when the train is in motion, so make sure that you use that bathroom on your train car. Now, I do have to get the train car number from the train master before you guys disembark my bus, so just remain seated until I get that. Now I'm going to say my bus number 3 times. 150, 150, 150. What's my bus number? 150. 150 is going to be picking you up in Fraser, Canada and taking you back into Skagway for your dredge town experience. Please make sure that you're making your way back to the right bus. 150. The number is right in front of my bus. Run across the road and I thought it's a sign. So I quit my job, I broke the lease on my apartment, I packed 2 duffel bags full of all my belongings, and I took off to Colorado where I got my first seasonal job. I have not stopped doing that since. I'm in a different state every 6 months. In Colorado, I got my CDL, learned how to drive buses, I was a camp counselor and an art instructor, as well as driving kids up and down a mountain to a summer camp. I met my boyfriend now, and we travel full time together now.
Shortly, and when our train starts to move, it is normal to experience some bumps and jolts. At this time, everyone must be inside and seated. Important safety information. During boarding, you may have noticed exterior platforms located at the front and back of your coach cars. These platforms are currently closed. Once I've heard from our conductor, I'll make an announcement and let everyone know when it is okay to step out onto those platforms. But until then, we do need everyone to remain inside. The most important rule of our train ride is there is no crossing from car to car. This is for your own safety. The thin metal bridge between the cars is called an apron, and it is not safe to step or stand on. You will see staff crossing from car to car, but this is not an invitation to do so yourselves. Once again, there is no crossing from car to car. Maintain 3 points of contact when up and about, and do not rest your hands near doorways or windows because the movement of the train can cause them to slam shut. Inside each car is a very real stove. Please do not touch or adjust them, and if you are uncomfortable with the temperature in your car, please speak with one of us and we will do our best to accommodate you. Smoking, vaping, or the consumption of alcohol are prohibited at all times on board the train, including the lavatories and exterior platforms. Now, with safety announcements out of the way, let me officially welcome you aboard the famous White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. Constructed over today, we will be climbing nearly 3,000 feet and traveling over 27 miles of narrow gauge track to arrive in Fraser, British Columbia. During our trip, I'll be pointing out some of the scenery and sharing with you some of the history of the White Pass Railroad and the Klondike Gold Rush, which spurred its construction. My name is Genevieve, and I'll be your narrator and your tour guide today. And joining me are two more tour guides, Ariana and Maya. You'll be meeting one of them soon if you haven't already. They are going to come through your cars to greet you and point out a few of our onboard amenities. Speaking of amenities, in either the front or rear of your coach to as many as you would like. Our engineer today is engineer Tom Reeder, but we won't be seeing him too much because he is in the cab of our locomotive, copy of our All Aboard magazine, and if you turn to the back cover, it will fold out into 7.7. On those maps, you'll see a dotted line indicating the international border between the United States and Canada. We will be traveling into Canada today and going through customs when we arrive in Fraser. So once again, your passport is required for this excursion. Now here on our left, you'll see a group of large red buildings. These are our maintenance shops where the mechanical side of our operation is managed. This is where we maintain our rolling stock of over 80 passenger cars, 15 diesel electric engines, and one steam locomotive. Coming up on our right is the Gold Rush Cemetery. It was used from 1897 to 1908 until no space was left and it was designated a historic site. As we leave Skagway behind, the Skagway River will be on our left, which we will see often on our trip today.
These are those all aboard pamphlets. I have some more in front if you would like any extras. We also have water bottles that are free in the back of your car and a restroom right in front. You can use as much as you would like. If you guys have any other questions, just let me know. Welcome aboard, you guys.
Thank you.
Of course.
In the summer of 1897, ships converged on the shores of Skagway, nestled in a fjord and serving as the gateway to the distant Klondike goldfields, luring thousands seeking their fortunes. The Klondike gold rush had begun, ignited by the discovery of gold in the Yukon the year prior. Skagway swiftly transformed into a bustling hub as prospectors from far and wide poured in, eager to stake their claim in one of the last remaining frontiers. The story of the White Pass Railroad is intertwined with Skagway and the Klondike Gold Rush, a story of the spirit of adventure and pursuit of wealth amidst the rugged north. Now at this time, I have important safety guidelines for using the exterior platforms. Once again, please do not cross from car to car. Always maintain 3 points of contact and avoid leaning on any chains as they are not weight-bearing. Because we have experienced some rain, be extra careful as the platforms and the linoleum flooring by the doorways can become slippery. Children under the age of 16 must be accompanied by a responsible adult. And finally, please be considerate and share the limited space with fellow passengers. With all of that said, our conductor has given us the go-ahead to step outside and make use of the exterior platforms. Was once a part of White Pass's rolling stock, but was given to the Forest Service to serve as an overnight hiker's cabin. After we pass the caboose, we'll make our first crossing over the Skagway River. On the left will be a view of our train curving over, and on the right will be a great view of the Denver Valley. Of the river valley, Skagway, and even a few of those cruise ships we have in port today. Our train is passing through a granite corridor called Rocky Point. Here Here, railroad construction workers faced an enormous obstacle, a 20,000-ton wall of granite, and the tracks had to be laid through here. The project had budgeted 450 tons of black blasting powder for the entire railroad. But as it turned out, over half of that stockpile was needed just to blast through this 1/4-mile section. Across the gorge and to our left, you should see a building with a blue roof. This is our U.S. Customs building. The actual border is still 12 miles ahead of us at the summit, but Customs was built here because of the extreme climate and terrain at higher elevations. Directly below the Customs building, painted onto the cliff face, are the words "On to Alaska with Buchanan," a reference to a wealthy philanthropist who sponsored groups of underprivileged boys and girls on trips through Alaska during the Great Depression. And a highlight of these trips was riding our train. One of these groups painted their slogan on the rock face we see here to honor Buchanan's legacy. If you direct your attention to the right, you will see a camouflage pipe going up the side of the mountain. This brings drinking water into Skagway from up in Goat Lake. After that pipe, The rocks will once again get really close to the right side of the train, and just beyond those rocks is a waterfall called Pitchfork Falls. It does come and go rather quickly, so keep your eye out on the right. At this point, you all have met our roaming guides, Ariana and Maya. The next time you see them, they will not be empty-handed. They will have a special souvenir available for purchase. And this souvenir is our Scenic Journey picture book. It is only available here on the train and nowhere else. And if you are hoping to see a bear today, well, you can see one in this book. They are $5 and $5 only. We accept US folding cash, and exact change is appreciated, though they can make a small amount of change if needed. They will only have enough time to come through with this item once, so if you are interested, let them know as they walk by. But first and foremost, they are your roaming guides, so please don't hesitate to let them know if you have any other questions. moments, we'll make our second crossing over the Skagway River with beautiful views of the surrounding valley on both sides. Once we clear this bridge, we'll begin our climb up to the high line, ascending 260 feet for every mile at a 3.9% rate. We'll be taking the wooden trestle bridge across the glacier gorge. We are approximately 1,000 feet above the valley floor, and out the left side we'll have a spectacular view of the entire train as it takes us into our first tunnel of the day. Gold Rush history. Appalled by the cruelty they witnessed, railroad engineers took great care to ensure the welfare of the horses used to help build our railway, ultimately bringing an end to the brutal conditions of the White Pass Trail. Steel cantilever bridge coming into view. It stands 215 feet tall, and when it was completed in 1901, it was the largest rail bridge of its kind in the world. On days like today, we like to call it the Ghost Bridge because of the way it will suddenly appear out of the fog. Now don't worry, you won't be crossing this bridge. It was retired in 1969 and replaced by the bridge ahead of us, which is the one we will be taking. As we cross this ravine, we'll have a great parallel view of the Steel Cantilever before we enter our second tunnel of the day. It is nearly 3 times longer than the first, so be prepared for a longer period of darkness. The Steel Cantilever Bridge was an incredible feat of engineering, and it is part of the reason the entirety of the White Pass Railroad was designated an International Civil Engineering Landmark. This is an honor we share with other engineering marvels like the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, and the Panama Canal.
No.
Replica of the border station used by the Northwest Mounted Police, who stood guard through extreme wind and cold, inspecting every safe feeder to ensure they had their 1 ton of goods. All right, everybody, this is your roving guide, Maya, taking over the microphone for your awesome narrator, Genevieve. As she makes her way to the very front of the train, I thought I would take this opportunity to tell you all a little bit more about your amazing narrator. So Genevieve comes to us all the way from California, and this is her second year at White Pass and her first year as a train agent. In her off time, Genevieve enjoys feeding her friends, the crows, and also ventured out into the forest to feed the crows. If you enjoyed Genevieve's tour today, and we're hoping for a chance to show your appreciation, this will be your opportunity to thank your tour guides.
Skagway, and that is it for the 2024 season. Thank you all so much for joining us on the last day, and I hope you enjoyed the trip. Have a lot of fun down in Skagway and on the rest of your cruise. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it.
will soon arrive at Fraser and a customs official will board the train to check passports. Everyone needs to come inside and take their seats at this time. The only problem with this announcement is that there are no speakers on those exterior platforms. So if you see someone out there, please do me a favor and ask them to come inside at this time. I have important arrival announcements to go over. At this time, we should have everybody inside and seated. As I mentioned, I do have important arrival announcements to go over. Please lend me your attention as I cover this important information. The restrooms on the train are now closed. Please don't use the restrooms on the train anymore. As we come to a stop at Fraser, please move on board and seated. Please take out your passport and open it to the picture page. Canadian Customs will soon board our train and pass through each car, checking everyone's passport. Please remain in your seats. Have the aisle clear and pause conversation so that you can hear any instructions. Remove hats or sunglasses and please their cell phones and cameras put away. Please discard any trash accumulated into the bins located in the front and back of your train car as you exit. You'll find your guide or bus to continue your tour in the parking lot to the right. Do not cross the tracks even if you see your bus on the other side. Remain in this parking lot to the right. Your bus must clear customs and will come here. It is very important to remain on board and seated until the agent has passed through your entire car and the steps have been let down. Finally, on behalf of Genevieve, Ariana, myself, and our entire train crew, thank you for riding.
All right, everybody, how was the train ride? I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. We're heading back into Skagway at this time. We're going to Dredgetown, where you guys are going to get that gold panning experience. Before we get there, we have to go across the Klondike Highway, a very historic highway here. It roughly follows the White Pass Trail, which is one of the trails that the prospectors took in order to get to Lake Bennett and eventually to Dawson City, and I'll get to that in just a moment. As we go through here, take a look at the trees to the left and to the right of us. Notice that they don't grow leaves on one side of the tree, or at least a lot of them don't. And that's because they have specifically evolved to not grow leaves on one side of the tree because the wind in this area is very fierce. We're traveling through what is known as the Tormented Valley. It gets its name from the harsh winds that come through this area. 80 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour winds come through this valley. And as we go a little bit further along this highway, you'll see that the trees actually become slim to none. That is not because we're above the tree line, that's because the wind usually rips them from the roots before they begin to grow. But the ones that do grow have that iconic flagpole shape. Kilometers. 90 kilometers, yes. We are in Canada at this time. Now, if the weather permits, we will be able to see two different types of lakes in this area, glacial lakes and snowmelt lakes. Snowmelt lakes are your typical dark blue colored lake, and glacial lakes are lighter in color and sort of have this greenish hue to them. That's because they're packed full of that glacial silt I was telling you guys about earlier in our tour. At one point, a long, long time ago, this whole area, including Skagway, used to be one giant glacier. That glacier is still having an effect on Skagway today. If you did not know this, Skagway rises 0.72 inches a year due to something known as glacial rebound. When that glacier was here, it packed out the land super tight. When it melted, the land started to rise and rebound again, hence glacial rebound. Since the 1800s, Skagway has risen 7 feet. There's a plethora of wildlife that live along this pass, including black bears, grizzly bears, moose, caribou, porcupines, and sometimes fox. The Alaska state bird is up for debate. Some people say it's the mosquito, but the actual Alaska state bird is the ptarmigan. It's spelled P-T-A-R-M-I-G-A-N. And what's interesting about a ptarmigan is that you can't hear them going to the bathroom because the P is silent. Now, this lake that's directly in front of us is a glacial lake. Notice the greenish hue in its water. This is also a great place to keep your head on a swivel because we do have a plethora of wildlife that live along this pass. Sometimes you'll even be able to see marmots on the rocks during this time. Out on our left-hand side, we can see the difference between a glacial lake and a snowmelt lake. There's a sandy barrier in between the two different types of lakes. The darker color is going to be that snowmelt lake, and then the glacial lake is that lighter color lake. Now, this highway again does roughly follow that White Pass Trail, one of the trails that the prospectors took in order to get to Lake Bennett and eventually to Dawson City. There was no gold ever found in Skagway. Where the gold was found was 500 miles away in the interior of Canada in Dawson City, but Skagway was a great port for people to come in and get their provisions ready to take those two trails off foot. Now, those two trails were once again the White Pass Trail, which was 48 miles long, and the Chilkoot Trail, which was 32 miles long. On the White Pass Trail, you can bring animals along with you, such as horses and their carriages, oxen and dog sleds to help carry the weight of your provision. But on the Chilkoot Trail, it was known as the icy ladder, like putting a ladder up against the side of a house and putting ice on all the steps. It was a very grueling journey, but most men took that journey because they could not afford to bring could not afford to bring animals along with them on the White Pass Trail. And that being 32 miles, they thought that the Chilkoot Trail was going to be the shorter route. However, they had to bring their provisions with them. When I talk about provisions, the Royal Mounted Police Department in Canada implemented a law in fear of starvation that any man that wanted to cross either trail had to bring 1,000 pounds of provisions with them. That is each man with 1,000 pounds. So on the White Pass Trail, they used those animals to help carry that weight, but on the Chilkoot Trail, it was known as the icy ladder, like putting a ladder up against the side of a house and putting ice on all the steps. Now, they had to carry that weight on their back over that ladder, and that's 1,000 pounds of weight. And I don't know about you guys, but I could not carry 1,000 pounds on my back. So what they would do is at the start of the Chilkoot Trail, at the base of the mountain in Dyea, they would leave all of their provisions there and take a portion of it at a time, 32 miles over that icy ladder, leave their provisions at Lake Bennett, and hike all the way back to go grab more. They would do that 20 to 30 more times. Now, even if they made it to Lake Bennett, they still had 372 miles, 600 kilometers to go on one of the mightiest rivers in North America at the time, the Yukon River. Now, it was the mightiest river at the time until they used dynamite to blow some of the rocks, making way for steamships in that area, making it more accessible for people coming in and out of Dawson City. But they did not have that yet. They had to find a way to make boats. And if you remember me talking about the Kermsey's Curios crop earlier in our tour, they had a wood shortage and they couldn't use wood to make billboards, so they painted their advertisements on the rock face instead. Well, that still holds true for the men that were on either trail. So they had to carve their own planks of wood out of the trees that were around them. The journal entries discovered that they watched brothers turn into enemies after trying to make one plank of wood. Now, when they created these boats and rafts, they were dinghy boats and rafts, and they put all of their provisions in them with multiple men. They tried going over class 5 rapids in these boats. A lot of men did not make it. They either lost their life to the river, lost their provisions in the river and starved, or lost their life to the elements themselves. Even if they made it all the way to Dawson City, there was no guarantee of finding gold. A lot of men did make it and didn't find a single speck of gold dust. There was a writer in that time, his name was Tappan Adney. He had wrote that he had never seen more inexperienced men in his life trying to make a journey that they were unprepared for. Most of these men were coming from Washington and Portland with cush bank jobs, a wife, family, a beautiful home, and they left it all because they had gold fever. We are back in Alaska at this time. U.S. Customs and Canadian Customs are pretty far from the border itself, and that's because the border is an avalanche zone during the winter time. So they keep those customs away from that zone. These L-shaped poles that are to the right and to the left of me are to help navigate snow plows in the winter time. This highway is open all year long unless there is an avalanche or landslide. This highway goes into Canada and can go to all of the lower 48 states. It was built in the 1970s, and it's one of the only highways that goes into Alaska. This area is where two tectonic plates are pushing up against each other, the North American and the Pacific tectonic plates. They create these massive mountains that are around us. The tallest peak in this area is going to be around 8,000 feet. The highest we were today was 3,292 feet. That is the summit. And once we reached the summit, we then descended back into Alaska. That is, of course, the highest you will be today, unless you go to one of two cannabis stores in town. In just a moment through the fog, you will see on the left-hand side that there is a bridge. It's a very big bridge, and as a memorial for Captain William Moore, Skagway's founder. It was specifically designed to not fall during an earthquake. One side is completely tethered down while the other side is freestanding. Now, Captain William Moore originally came to Skagway and named it Mooresville to keep its name in history. And he predicted that eventually gold was going to be found in the interior of Canada, that Skagway, being a naturally deep water port, was going to be a perfect place for those people to start that journey. Now, he did predict that correctly. However, he was about 10 years too early, and in that time, he had to find a way to make money. So he was a mailman. He would deliver mail to different ports across the ocean and be gone for long periods of time. But one year, he went out delivering mail, and he came back expecting his house to be right where he left it, and it wasn't. In fact, 10,000 people were squatting on his land, and he demanded that these 10,000 people pay him to stay on Mooresville, but they didn't. In fact, what they did is they created their own governing council and picked up his house and moved it to one corner of the plot where it still stands on Fifth Avenue today. Not only did they move his house, but they renamed Mooresville to Skagway, named after the Tlingit community that helped the prospectors in that time. Skagway means home of the north wind, a very fitting name, feeling the winds that rip through this valley. Once again, we get hurricane force winds, 80 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour. As we come around this bend, please please draw your attention to the right side of the bus because there will be a waterfall. It is Bridal Falls, fed by the Carmack Glacier. It goes underneath this highway all the way down the mountain to help feed the Skagway River. There is a train going along the tracks on the left side, a little bit in front of our bus. You can see that we're roughly following that white passive Yukon Route Railway, a little bit of a third-person perspective for you. The white passive Yukon Route Railway was built in hopes that they would ship gold back from Dawson City during the gold rush. However, when they finished building the railway, the gold rush was already over. So they used it for a period of time to ship goods. They used it during World War II to ship equipment, but now it stands as a scenic railway. Now there is no shortage of water here in Skagway. In fact, this is a temperate rainforest, so it does rain most of the summer months. But water does something pretty fantastic for Skagway, and that is it powers the entirety of Skagway. Now, in just a moment, we'll take a look up to our left and see a sort of dip in the mountain top, and up there is Goat Lake. And Goat Lake has a pipe that runs from it all the way down the mountainside to a hydroelectric plant that helps power the entirety of Skagway and half of Haines. We will be able to see that big blue pipe on the left-hand side. To the left of that pipe is Pitchfork Falls, also one of the bigger waterfalls we will see along this pass. There are bears that live here. I have seen a few of them, mostly in the Yukon Territory while I'm driving, but a lot of bears have made their way into Skagway during the nighttime to grab some trash goodies. We are coming up to U.S. Customs. This port of entry always makes me want pancakes because it looks like an IHOP. You do not need your passports out for this port of entry. Just past these rocks on the left-hand side, you will see a gray building. That is Skagway's incinerator. It burns 90% of the trash that comes from Skagway. It is also where they send cruise ship passengers when they miss their ship. Have you guys been to Juneau on your cruise? Okay, did you guys notice the bald eagles that are in Juneau? Okay, there are many bald eagles in Juneau, not so many in Skagway. There is a biome difference, and there's no fish in any of the lakes for them to eat, so they don't really like this area. There are 2 known sets of bald eagles that live near the Lynn Canal and 1 known set of golden eagles, but other than that, not so many here in Skagway. But in Juneau, there are many. Now, I've got a story to tell you guys before we reach Dredgetown about a buddy that I have in Juneau. For the sake of anonymity, we're going to call him Jeff, okay? Jeff is a tour guide, much like myself, and he does tours tours around downtown Juneau, giving people the ins and outs of what to experience in downtown Juneau. Now these people, when they get off on Jeff's bus, they're taking photos of these bald eagles and they're absolutely loving it, okay? Well, until they're not. You see, bald eagles in Juneau are kind of like a ground squirrel in the lower 48. At some point, you just stop taking photos of them. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And there's another one. So when people are getting off of Jeff's bus, they're saying, we want to see bear, we want to see moose, we want to see something other than these darn bald eagles. And Jeff is obviously discouraged by this because there's no bear, there's no moose. So he is discouraged and he goes to the bar that night with his buddy. And for the sake of anonymity, we're going to call his buddy Warner. He sits down next to Warner and he says, Warner, we're not doing too good, man. A lot of people want to see bear, they want to see moose, they want to see something other than these bald eagles, and I just can't give that to them. We're in downtown Juneau. There's no bear, there's no moose, there's too many people. But Warner's a good guy and he wants to help a buddy out, so he looks at Jeff and he says, you know, I have a taxidermy head of a moose in my house, and I can take the antlers off of it, strap them to my head, hide behind the Alaska sign, and when you give the word, I can poke those antlers up above the Alaska sign, and people will go nuts. Jeff's like, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. Nobody's ever going to believe that you're a moose. Warner's like, come on, man. I'm just trying to help you out. If it doesn't work, we'll never do it again. Jeff says, okay, I guess we'll do it just the one time. But if it doesn't work, never again. So the next day, Jeff gets in his bus with a group of passengers. He's driving, then he gets to the Alaska side. He's got a walkie-talkie, and he puts it up against his mouth, and he goes, Warner, it's showtime. And Warner sticks those antlers up above the Alaska sign, and people are going nuts. They're kicking, they're screaming, they're throwing things out the window. They're saying it's a moose, it's a moose, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And that day, Jeff did so good with his tour. People were absolutely loving it when they got off the bus. They're chucking money at him left and right, saying this is the best tour I've ever been on. Thank you so much, Jeff. So Jeff is super excited. He runs back to the bar that night screaming at Warner. Warner, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Thank you so much, dude. This was incredible. They really thought you were a moose. You gotta keep doing this, man. Well, Warner's super proud of himself, and he pats himself on the back, and he looks at Jeff, and he says, I think I've got something even better for you tomorrow. Jeff says, okay, man, this is incredible. I can't wait to see what you have planned for me next. I'm so sorry I ever doubted you. So that night, Warner gets to stitching, and he stitches the rest of that taxidermy moose head that's in his house. And the next day, Jeff gets in his bus with another group of passengers, and he's driving, and he gets to the Alaska side, and he puts that walkie-talkie up against his mouth, and he goes, Warner, it's showtime. And Warner sticks that bull moose head up above the Alaska sign, and people are going nuts. They're kicking, they're screaming, they're throwing their kids out the window. They're saying it's a moose, it's a moose, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And that day, Jeff did even better with his tour. People were absolutely loving it when they got off the bus. They're chucking money at him left and right, saying this is the best tour I've ever been on. Thank you so much, Jeff. So Jeff is super excited. He runs back to the bar that night screaming at Warner. Warner, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Thank you so much, dude. This is incredible. You gotta keep doing this. So Warner's super proud of himself, and he pats himself on the back, and he looks at Jeff, and he says, I think I've got something even better for you tomorrow. And Jeff's like, oh man, this is incredible. I'm so sorry I ever doubted you. Seriously, man, this is great. I'm barely gonna sleep tonight. So the next day, Jeff gets in his bus, another group of passengers, and he's driving, and he gets to the Alaska sign. But what Jeff did not know is the night before, Warner was up all night, stitching the most realistic head-to-toe moose costume you have ever seen. I mean, it is the real thing. So when Jeff gets to that Alaska sign, he puts that walkie-talkie up against his mouth, and everybody with me now, Warner, it's showtime. And Warner comes up behind the Alaska sign, this big, bold moose. I mean, it is the real thing, and people are going nuts. They're kicking, they're screaming, they're throwing their kids out the window, they're biting each other's ankles, they're saying it's a moose, it's a moose, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Oh my gosh, I'm crying. And then just then, a bear emerges, and it starts creeping up behind Warner. Jeff sees this bear, and he puts that walkie-talkie up against his mouth real silent, and he goes, Warner, don't move. There's a bear. And Warner freezes. And he doesn't know what to do when he's shaking in his moose house. He's like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die of a tasty moose snack. Please, somebody help me. That bear gets closer and closer and closer. But whatever Warner does, he cannot scream because it ruins the illusion for everybody on the bus that thinks he's a moose. So Jeff's like, don't scream. Don't scream. Please don't scream. And that bear gets closer and closer and closer until it steps on a branch right behind Warner. It snaps. Warner can't take it anymore. He goes, ah! And the bear goes, quiet, you're going to get us both fired. That's my Juno story for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, before we get to Dredgetown, we have a photo stop that I want to do for you guys. It is the Skagway overlook, looking over the entirety of Skagway. Skagway is not very long. The entirety of the downtown area is 8 blocks long and 1 block wide. The entirety of Skagway itself is 22 blocks long and 4 blocks wide. We'll be able to see the entirety of Skagway from the overlook. We will also be able to see your cruise ship in port. Now, this road also leads to Dyea, which is where the natives actually originated. No natives ever wanted to live in Skagway. It was inhabitable for them because of the harsh winds, and there was nothing for them to hunt for and eat, so they found it better to live in Dyea where they could hunt for deer and other foraging goods. So they had blueberries and raspberries and at higher elevation salmon berries. If you don't know what salmon berries are, it's much like a raspberry, just lighter in color. The rock formations that we've seen along this area are called plutons. They are mostly made of granite. The trees in this area consist of subalpine firs, Sitka spruce, hemlock, paper birch, and cottonwood. Now, you do not have to get out if you don't want to. I'm going to get the stool up for you guys and you can follow me out. Now, you probably have noticed that a lot of the buildings in Skagway are different colors, and that does have a purpose. In the late 1800s, the prospectors that came through this area were mostly illiterate. They couldn't read the signs on the buildings telling them where to go. So they'd say, if you need this, go to the red building. If you need this, go to the yellow building. Same thing works with churches. If you're a Mormon, they tell you to go to the brown church. If you're a Catholic, they tell you to go to the green church. If you're atheist, stay home. Still to this day, the locals refer to the churches by their color and not by the religion. Alright folks, we are heading on to Dredgetown at this time. We are scheduled to leave Dredgetown at 4:45. 4:45 is when we are leaving Dredgetown. They're very good at guiding people out at the right time, but just so you guys know, we're leaving at 4:45.
Hey, my waiting today. And I like to know those folks because I was born with a blowhole on the top of my. No, that's just a joke there, y'all. I got that name called. Each day I noticed it got cold and cold. Till the next thing I know, I'm flipping out of this whale's mouth like a chunk of ambergris. Before I can even say shamu, that whale is spitting me out. I came skipping across the Lynn Canal, and I washed up here in Skagway. Well, I had the faintest idea of how to get back home, so I decided I'd make my home here in Dredgetown. And it's here where I learned the most valuable skills of the Klondike Gold Rush. Man, I'm here today to teach y'all all my secrets, and hopefully we'll have a whale of a time while we're at it. That sound all right with you folks? All right, well, let's get started. Seeing as how we're going to be looking for gold, can I get one for
Not so harder. Okay. So you found 1.8 grains of gold. That's worth $26.60.
Like, not really, is it?
It is. It's both an all-time high.
Really?
So this is yours to keep.
Yay.
You want to display it anyway?
Yeah, and she just told us we found $26 worth of gold. I was surprised. It was a few flakes, but I guess that's how much gold is worth right now, so that was pretty cool. My camera battery was dying, so I didn't get any video of us doing the panning for gold. It's a tourist trap kind of thing, but it was fun, actually. I enjoyed this quite a bit. And then we kind of enjoyed looking around this little spot, too. And again, sorry about the audio. It is still hearable. You can still hear it, but it wasn't perfect. But if you've done the railroad, if you've been to Skagway, let me know what you thought. I enjoyed this quite a bit, and I did edit this down quite a bit too. It was a lot longer. I enjoyed videotaping a whole lot of that train ride, but I thought I would try to give you an hour and 15-minute highlight reel. But anyway, let me know what you think. We had a good time. Enjoyed Skagway. We enjoyed this train ride. Just had a great time.